So Five Nights at Freddy's has had some bad theories, but this one is straight up toxic. The theory we're about to cover today is about William Afton and his children. This one was recommended by a lot of you, and quite a lot of people strongly disliked this theory, and we'll get to why later on. As always with FNAF theories, there is quite a lot of evidence to go through, even if they don't hold up. There's just so much information in Five Nights at Freddy's games. Now, generally, I have lukewarm takes. It's easy, for example, to say things like, the FNAF adult theory is bad, even though a surprising amount of people were quick to defend the theory in the comments of the last video. But since this one has a bit more evidence to stand on, arguably, maybe it's a hot take to say that this theory is bad. Disclaimer for this video, and if you go looking down the rabbit hole of this theory before we start, at best there is child neglect, so if you are sensitive to that kind of content, you might want to skip this video. This theory dives into William Afton as a parent to Michael Afton, Elizabeth Afton, and the crying child, and how he treats them. And the discussion around the topic can bring up examples that some viewers might find disturbing. I'm really excited to actually break down this theory and how it relates to the plot at the end of the video. This is one of those FNAF theories that characterize the people in the story as opposed to just explaining events, and I found those really interesting. So let's get started. My name is Arcade, and this is Theory Review, where I cover your favorite or least favorite FNAF theories. And the one we're covering today is WillCare, or the theory that William Afton cares about his kids and was a good father. Now, that might sound like it's good at first, but there is some pretty strong counter evidence that makes this a really deceiving theory. The thing is, the more information comes out about William Afton, the worse he gets. We're not going to dive deep into his actions in the series, but he is a monster, which may have sparked some people to try to find more nuance in his character. So, theorists looked into how he treated his kids. There is a lot of information about William Afton's parenting, more than I originally thought before starting this video. Let's start with the crying child first, which I'll be using information from the Fnaf 4 minigames. There are a few posts and theories that assume that William Afton is talking to the crying child through the Fredbear plush in these minigames. We will talk about the story stuff and the subtext here at the end, but a lot of this relies on details like these being true. Through the Fredbear plush, you can be seen comforting the child as he, cries. Though there is a text bubble change at the end of this minigame, which might be the puppet or even Michael Afton, but let's say that most of this is William Afton. That means that William, while being busy and unable to be there for his kid, set up a camera with a speaker inside the plush to keep an eye on him, and talk to him when he's not there. However, this all is assuming that William Afton is speaking through the Fredbear plush, which might not be the case. In either situation, one thing is true though, the notable absence of William Afton being there for his son. There is only one scene where he shows up in the background, stuffing somebody in a suit, or putting their costume head on. From the post I saw, a significant amount of evidence relies on William Afton being the voice behind the plush, because otherwise he's just not there for his son, while the child is clearly suffering. It's weird that I keep having to call him the child, but he doesn't have a name, or he does, but no one's been able to find it. I love Five Nights at Freddy's so much. In order for William Afton to be a good parent, he would actually have to care about his son and would notice his sadness. Another big thing that points to him actually caring about his kid is the line, "I will put you back together." It's very debated about who actually said this, but assuming that it is William Afton, it would imply that he is stricken with grief over the accident the child had, and will do whatever it takes to help his son. A lot of WillCare believers believe this is evidence for the theory. This point actually kicks off a lot of theories, saying this is how William discovered Remnant when the Freddy animatronic started showing signs of being possessed after biting the kid. That's not really relevant to this theory, but I just figured I'd mention it. So assuming this theory is true, in the story, William, being busy running the Freddy Fazbear Pizzeria, sets up a camera and a speaker to keep an eye on the crying child, and confronts him while making up for his absence. When the bite accident happens, William presumably stops everything to try to help his son. But what about how he treats his other kids? The easiest one to cover would be Elizabeth, with the most evidence coming from sister location. In the game, William Afton had made the Circus Baby animatronic based off Elizabeth Afton. However, he had repeatedly prevented her from seeing Circus Baby. This is because he knew that the animatronic was designed to scoop up a kid when the coast was clear. Yeah, he added it in this grabby arm thing inside the animatronic to grab a kid. He's not a good person. This animatronic was dangerous, and William Afton tried to unsuccessfully keep Elizabeth away. Afterward, William closed down Circus Baby Pizza World. The theory claims that because William tried his best to keep Elizabeth safe from Circus Baby, it shows that he cares about her to some extent, and that the fact that he was unsuccessful made him close the place down out of grief. Just keep this in mind for now. Let's cover how he treats Michael Afton, his other son before we talk about the evidence. There really isn't much to support this theory for Michael. At best, I guess you could say he doesn't discipline him because even though he torments his brother with a foxy mask in Fnaf 4 minigames, he never gets a talking to. When it comes to Michael, there are actually a few examples where he was being mistreated by William. In Sister Location, for example, William had sent him to the facility without really giving him a heads up that the animatronics are dangerous, resulting in him getting scooped. Also, under the theory that it was William Afton in the Midnight Motorist minigame, it would show him being uncaring and a bad parent to the point where Michael ran away as a kid. So because of that, let's start debunking. It's worth mentioning that there is a bunch of information on William in the books. However, it's unclear if they are in the same timeline and everything, so we're going to stick strictly to the game. I'm pretty sure the books are in their own timeline, but someone can let me know in the comments. I still gotta read them. Firstly, with the crying child, if William was actually using the Fredbear plush, he would have done so much more if he had actually cared about his son. Assuming the voices are even him, Michael was bullying his younger brother and getting away with it, noticeably affecting the child. When it comes to Elizabeth, some have said that William used reverse psychology to get her scooped by preventing her from seeing Circus Baby so that she can go see him on her own time. I think that's a little unlikely, but if he did care about her, he would have clearly noticed how much she liked Circus Baby, so the smart choice would have been just to reprogram the animatronic or give another one the grabby arm, not that one. Her death could have easily been avoided. As for the event of being why he closed down Circus Baby World, that doesn't necessarily mean he did it out of grief. He could have, but the accident would have been really bad for publicity and his image. And William Afton even tried covering it up, which isn't a good look on his character. That at all isn't definitive proof he cared about Elizabeth. I don't think William even likes his son, Michael, at all. I haven't found any evidence of that in WillCare theories or any posts. Most of them point out examples in Fnaf 4, and Michael's just kind of like in the background. So as far as credibility for this theory, I'd say it's pretty weak. But the interesting part about it, in my opinion, is what it introduces to the story. So let's talk about what the story looks like if this was true, and later we'll get to why people dislike the theory. William Afton is definitely one of the main characters in Five Nights at Freddy's story. He and Henry created the animatronics, and most importantly, he was the main villain behind the tragedies in the games. What this theory seems to be trying to do is add nuance to his character. Obviously, William Afton is a horrible person. We're not going to dive into that too much because the extent of it really depends on the timeline and theories, but he's behind some of the darker moments in the series. It's not so much justifying his actions, the theory is just trying to humanize him by saying he isn't completely a monster because look, he at least cares about his kids. Well, except for Michael, but he's an ugly kid, so that's what the point of the mask is. But the thing is, with this theory, it doesn't match any of his actions in the story. It's like trying to gaslight you into thinking that William is a good dad, which weirdly makes him look worse. Now it feels like he's the one pushing for this theory in a weird, narcissistic sort of way. Look, a story about a horrible man committing atrocities in his family pizzeria, and underneath it all being broken and caring for his kids, could work, if written well. Seeing a man struggle with balancing his double life and trying to shelter his kids from who he really is would make a really interesting narrative. However, there are just not any points where this interesting idea can be displayed. If this theory were to be true, it would make the writing feel worse, because this feels like a half-baked attempt to introduce nuance to a villain. It's okay to have a villain be really bad with little redeeming qualities. It just comes down to how the story treats the character. On the flip side, I think Fnaf as a story would actually benefit from him being a bad father. His children all end up with terrible fates, and presents Michael through the first few games in Sister Location as a protagonist who needs to take down his dad. Not just because he's a monster, but because it's personal. His siblings all suffered by both of their hands, because remember, Michael did bully his brother and accidentally caused his death. For Michael to stop William, it would almost be like making up for his mistakes in the past, as William would represent the evils that the Afton family can succumb to. Elizabeth, after possessing Circus Baby, is pretty sympathetic to her father, having a few lines where it's clear that she still seeks his approval, making it more compelling and even tragic that after her accident, William still used her against Michael in Sister Location. Having sympathetic villains can make a good story, but forcing them to have unredeemable qualities isn't needed. Ultimately, I think a lot of people don't like this theory because it downplays William's mistreatment of his kids, and also it just barely has any legs to stand on. Narratively, it just doesn't make the story any better. it just makes him seem stupid, because if he did care about his kids, they would probably still be alive. All he had to do was be there for them, and not make a deadly animatronic based on his daughter. I was surprised by a few posts really committing to this theory. I originally thought this is one of those joke ones, but thank you for recommending this as one of the worst FNAF theories. It gets 1.5 Freddy Fazbears. I made this video based on your comments, so if you have any FNAF theories you want me to cover, subscribe and comment one of your favorite or least favorites. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I hope you're a bit less bored.